There's a lot of talk going around about trade and whether or not GGG should implement an auction house in this game. A lot of the discussion seems to be talking in terms of big picture things like the economy or on principle or if this worked out in D3 or not, or if botting's going to become an issue. And people say we effectively have an auction house right now. I'm not sure about that, but I will say this: if we implement an auction house similar to D3, I could see a lot of problems and technical issues that would need to be sorted out. First of all, there are bugs in the system that I don't think are a problem with the trade itself, but just actual bugs that need to be fixed. For example, PoE trade listing offline players as online, or the bug that makes people receive a message saying that you're offline even though you're online when they try to whisper you. These are issues that should be fixed by GGG, not actual trade system problems. Second of all, GGG is implementing its trade in waves. I think performance development took priority over trade, and I agree with that mentality. But what I'm saying is, what we have right now is not the final version of trade that GGG wants. I personally would like to know where we're headed. I don't know why GGG wouldn't be more open with it unless they don't have things set in stone. I don't think the trade system should be something treated like game mechanics that people need to figure out. That said, my current guess is the eventual plan is to put a PoE trade like system into the game somehow. I can't think of a reason why they would think that PoE trade is fine and even give it a tool like the public stash tabs and not want it to be in the game. But this is just a guess on my part. Before we get into an auction house, let's start with this very simple premise. If GGG allows players to automatically buy out items, we'll ignore botting, even though it will probably be rampant if you allow this. This essentially takes out the issue of interacting with other players when the item's buyout is actually good, but just in that certain situation. But this will also still require some work. First of all, the obvious one is where you're going to put the currency in an automated trade. Not everyone has a currency tab, and everybody freaked out with the public stash tabs calling it pay to win. Now you have to pay for a currency tab to have this automated buyout. You can't actually put the currency where the item was, because in case you sell, for example, a ring for 50 chaos, that takes way more space. So also will create a very funny situation where you sell an item for 10 chaos, but the item was listed for 10 chaos inside a 2 chaos buyout tab. Your 10 chaos will be listed for 10 chaos and someone will go and automatically buy it. This will probably can be worked around, but people are probably going to camp out for when other players accidentally put items into the wrong buyout tab. And now you can buy offline players' items this way. But another situation that could occur is, for example, some jerk decides to tell the world how the dreamer's dream works and how useful and undervalued it is. Probably makes a video about it, links it in all his other YouTube videos, just won't shut up about how good the dreamer's dream is. Now you realize the dreamer's dream you have listed, it's probably worth more than what you've put it up on. But you're not in the game, you're offline, and before you can update it, all of yours would have been bought before you can say anything about it. Actually, this situation probably wouldn't occur with the Dreamer's Dream. I just wanted to plug in my other video. In fact, by the time some jerk would have figured out how the Dreamer's Dream works, long before that video even came up, I would have probably gone and tried to buy all the offline ones just to find out that people way smarter than me already bought all the cheap ones. This applies more if Ziggy D or Mathel talked up an item, not just some random nobody like me. Another similar situation that happened in hardcore is one morning all the reach bows were listed in exalts, and by the afternoon they were all listed in chaos, because that was the day it was obvious that exalt prices were dropping, and they dropped pretty fast. That means if you had listed anything for exalts, you're starting to lose money because everybody's buying out all your items because you're offline and you didn't change everything to chaos. I mean, this is all just so that you can buy out an item from someone who is not available right now, but has the buyout listed for one type of currency as the price, because this would have to be automated. There's no way for the system to figure out what 3.25 exalts means. You'll need the exact currency that's being listed by the player, and this will also exclude all the items that don't have a buyout, because you can't just buy those out automatically. And the problem with player interaction is usually for unique items or specific items for a build, and not just something to fill out resist, because you can fill those out anywhere. And odds are, if those are listed for a low enough price as a buyout, you're likely not the first person to buy it out in the system anyway, because the odds are that you found this item right now, and nobody has bought it, and you can't buy it because the person is offline or AFK or whatever. Odds are someone probably asked before you and couldn't buy it either. So there's no guarantee that you are getting this item anyway in the new system. And this is also going to discourage haggling if people were just expecting to get the price they listed as the buyout. And it's not even going to help out that much when leagues are dying, because all the cheap stuff that players haven't updated prices for would have been bought a long time before then, leaving only the ones that players didn't drop down the prices of because they didn't come back to update the price for the current economy. And players who quit don't continually add more items to the system for you to buy. And this is only for buying out items and not for haggling down or lowering the price of a max buyout item. Those you still have to follow the old rules that we have right now. And this isn't even an auction house yet. And for an auction house, I'm going to use D3's auction house as an example, because that's the one that seems to be brought up in arguments where people say putting an auction house won't cause the same problems as D3, so let's use that for an example. How does an auction house handle our currency? Does GGG implement a currency ratio for us? Is there an automated way of doing it based on how people are trading? Do you trust a system like that not to be taken advantage of by players? Does that mean people can't list things in fractions? Because what's half a chaos and half an exalt, like I said before? Can I buy out something in alchemy orbs or fuses instead of the listed number? I would guess most people would just want the currency that's listed. Odds are that's going to end up being just buying things in chaos. If you want something to sell for exalts, you better hope it's worth a whole number of exalts, because how is it going to handle the fractions? But now that we have an auction house with bidding, how is that going to work? The currency problem gets even weirder now. Who bid more? The one who used alchemy orbs or fuse orbs? Or is it me who used lots and lots of wisdom scrolls? But because we have bidding, that means we have to put time limits on every item listed, and it can't be too long. This whole thing is about speeding up the slow trading process that's killing PoE to go back to the clear speed meta that's killing PoE. We don't want players to interact with each other, we want automation. The house has to hold the bidder's currency in order to make sure they have enough to buy the item at the end of the auction, and it can't hold that currency on forever. Are we going to allow the bidders to take back their bids? Are we going to allow sellers to take back their items before the end of the auction? This also means that we're going to have to relist all our items that didn't sell every few days. A lot of people bring up the fact that D3's auction house failed because it has bad itemization, and the fact that PoE has better itemization on a lot more things that are valuable. And to that degree, I agree. But a lot of players list way more items in PoE than D3 because we have so much more to sell. Having to relist all these items every few days will become time consuming in the end. That's another factor that you have to take into account. And this isn't factoring going into how many items we can list for trade. Essentially, if we have an auction house where we put up our items for trade that's outside of our stash tabs, we're cutting into GGG's source of money, which is us buying stash tabs if we get free storage from just putting up our items for sale. To add to all that, people will now start camping out items that are near the end of auctions so that they can bid a wisdom scroll fragment more and win it on the cheap. Look, I'm not here to tell you that people are suggesting to implement what I just said. I'm just saying a lot of detail about improving trade systems seems to be overlooked in these discussions. I'm not saying our current trade system is perfect, but people are disregarding a lot of the factors of an auction house in favor of getting rid of an annoyance in the current system, and you're probably going to have annoyances with the other system anyway. It's easy to theorize an idealized system where for your argument and think that it's better because it doesn't have the problem that you're focused on right now. But that's not really how you build the game. And I don't know if an auction house can work in the current system or not. I don't know if it's going to drive down the prices of all the items because the increase of number of sellers. I don't even know if it's going to be more efficient than playing the game. And I'm not even sure how botted it's going to be at the end. I know there's a temptation now to go and try to poke holes in what I said, but I don't think that was really the point of this video. My point is we need a lot more detail when we bring up trade discussions and solutions. All I'm saying is if you're gonna say put an auction house in the game, you actually need to put a lot of thought into what that actually means in detail, particularly when it comes to being a player, being a seller, being a buyer, not just arguing in terms of principle, theory, and semantics. Otherwise, you're not really suggesting anything.